Hello friends. Today we're going to be logicians. A logician is basically a master logic person. Basically what we're talking about today is objections to Christianity. So recently I put on my Instagram, follow me if you don't, a poll about what people's objections to Christianity are. Otherwise known as, I'm not a Christian because, or I would never be a Christian because. And so I got a lot of good responses and I want to take some time to address each of those objections. Obviously, I'm a Christian, so my goal is kind of hopefully to let you know why I believe what I believe so that you can believe it too, because I believe that Jesus is the best person in the world and it makes me sad that not everybody knows him. My other goal is that for Christians who are watching this video, you can have a better idea of why we believe the things that we believe and maybe some ways to address these concerns should somebody bring them up to you. The first objection we're going to talk about is the objection that God places too many rules on us. I don't want to follow all those rules. I don't want some God telling me how to live my life, okay? In order to address this properly, we have to come with the premise that God exists, okay? Because it doesn't make sense to object to Christianity by saying there are too many rules if you don't actually believe that God exists. Why does it matter if there are too many rules or not? Really what you should be saying is, I don't believe in God, therefore I don't believe in Christianity, okay? That can be a totally different video, but for the sake of this video, we're talking about rules and God's placing rules on us. And so in order to talk about that, we have to just operate under the premise that God exists. So first, does God have any right to give rules to us? I'm going to say yes, because if we say that there is a God and we are not him, that means that we are his creation. So if he's the creator and we're the creation, then he can tell us how we are supposed to live, how would be best according to how he made us. So you already see this working in ways that we don't talk about. I mean, we follow the rules of physics. We follow the rules of, your digestive system. Like, we eat food to give ourselves energy. These are ways that we were created. These are rules, so to speak, that God has given to us that we follow. And the reason why we follow them is because, well, with gravity, we can't not follow gravity. So that's not really helpful. But for eating, we could not eat, but we would die. Like, it's better for us to eat, so we do. And we wouldn't say, wow, God is a horrible monster for telling me to eat. No, he's telling you to eat because he knows how he created you and he knows that your body needs food. Okay? Does that make sense? Great. So he made us. If he really is God, being God means that he must know everything. If he knows everything, that means he knows what is best for us. Now, that doesn't really matter. If you have a God who's all-powerful and created you and knows everything, but he doesn't care about you, that you don't want to follow the rules that God creates, probably. Because if he doesn't care about you, why would he make rules that would be for your good? He wouldn't. He might be evil. He might make rules that he says, follow this and you'll die, and you don't want to follow those. The thing about this question also that we need to keep in mind is that the reality is we follow rules all the time. So when people object and they say, I don't want to follow these rules, God gives me too many rules, they're not objecting to the command that God gives to not murder people. Let's just look for a second, okay? Come with me. We're going to Genesis right now. Genesis is the first book in the Bible, and a bunch of stuff happens in Genesis. God creates everything, everyone, gives some commands, bunch of things happen. It's super interesting. You should read it if you have a chance. Genesis 9:6. God is telling Noah what the rules are. He says, whoever sheds human blood, by humans shall their blood be shed. For in the image of God, God has made mankind. So that's a rule. God told Noah, you're not going to kill people. And if people get killed, life for a life. That's basically what he's saying. And so you read that rule and you're not like, wow, God's a moral monster. He hates me, so therefore he's telling me not to kill people. No, no one's going to say that. Let's look at another one. Okay, now we are in the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy is another one of those books that has a lot of rules in it. And I should put a little asterisk here. God chose to deal with his people differently. So when you look in the Old Testament, which is way before the New Testament, which talks about Jesus, in the Old Testament, God was dealing with a specific group of people called the Israelites. And he had specific rules that he told the Israelites that they needed to follow in order to have a covenant with him. A covenant is when each party brings their list of things that are going to happen and you both agree to it. So this was the covenant. God said, you are going to follow these rules, and if you do, I will give you love. That's the exchange. And protection and land and all this stuff. So that's why in the Old Testament you see a lot of rules, and some of them we might be like, what? Don't eat shellfish? But that was a specific rule that God gave to the Israelites, and it doesn't apply to us today. Okay, so in Deuteronomy 14, it talks about, at the end of every 3 years, bring all the tithes of that year's produce and store it in your towns, so that the Levites, who have no allotment or inheritance of their own, and the foreigners, the fatherless, the widows who live in your towns may come and eat and be satisfied, and so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the works of your hands. So, one command, rule, that God gave to the Israelites was, you're going to take, at the end of your year, gather your stuff, and you're going to give it to the people who don't have any. You're going to give it to the fatherless, to the widows, to the orphans, to the foreigner. You're going to give it to these people so that they can eat and be satisfied. Is anyone going to try to tell me that God should not tell you to do those things? No. We're all like, hey, that's a fine rule. We should give to people and stuff like that. Similarly, Micah 6:8. And what does the Lord require of you, basically? What rules does the Lord ask you to do? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Are you going to try to tell me that you don't want to act justly? Maybe. You might try to tell me that. We could have a conversation about that. But my point is, there's a lot of rules in this here book that many people already follow, right? So you're not telling me I don't like how many rules there are. You're saying I don't like specific rules. I don't want to follow specific rules. So, what rules are those? What rules do most people not want to follow in the Bible? So before I continue, I just want to say, we're talking a lot about rules, but the funny thing about that is that the whole basis of Christianity is that we literally can't follow all the rules that God gave us. That's the point. And I'm not sure if you knew that, but this is basically what happened, okay? God said, here are all of the rules. And people went, okay, we'll try. Some of them said, screw you. Some people were like, hey, we'll try. We'll try not to murder. We'll try not to covet. We'll try not to lie and all this stuff. And then they realized, crap, I can't do it. God help. And God was like, you're right. You can't do it. You're a sinner. And he was like, but it's okay, because what I decided to do was I decided to send my son, and he's going to follow all the rules. He's going to do it all perfectly. And he's going to get to the end of his life, and he's going to die on a cross. And that death, I'm going to pour out my wrath. This is God talking. This is not me. God says, I'm going to pour out my wrath on him, so that the people who look to Jesus, they don't need to follow those rules anymore. They might try because they love me. So me as a Christian, I try to follow all the rules. I try to be kind. I try to not be angry, to not sin. I go to church because I love Jesus. I give money to organizations that are doing good things. I give money to my church. I care for people. So I do these things not because I feel like I need to, not just because God gave me the list and was like, here, complete this, that's what makes you a Christian. It's because Jesus already completed it on my behalf, and I'm so thankful that I don't have to try to work at that anymore, that I can just be like, I'm just gonna love Jesus with all of my heart. And I know that I will mess up, but I know that there is grace for me because he already died for me. So let's talk again about which rules people don't like to follow. The thing is, people just don't like being told what to do or feel like they don't have control over their lives, right? Like, we all want to have this freedom. When they see things in the Bible, like talking about not cursing or not having sex before marriage or going to church, a lot of lifestyle choices, these are the things that people are like, I don't want God to tell me what I can wear and not wear, what I can say and not say, what I can do and not do. But let's back up for a second. Let's think about this in the context of our premise. You have a God who created you, who knows you, who loves you, and wants the best for you. And he gave you these things and said, I know how I created you. I know what is best. Try this. I think when we think about God in this way, it's easier to see it's not just a list of rules that he's telling me what I can and can't do. It's him saying, I know how I created you and I know what's best for you. I know that you will mess up. I know that you won't be able to check off every box on these rules, but I created you a certain way and I know what's best for you. And if you love me, you'll do these things. It's just, do you love Jesus? This is what you'll do. It's not, I do these things because I'm a Christian. Like, in order to be a Christian, I have to make sure that I don't ever look at a boy. You know, like, and I think sometimes Christianity gets a bad rap about having a lot of rules, and I'm wondering what we can do to change that. Because it's really not about us following rules. It's about God lovingly giving us guidance and saying, here's what's best. I know what's best for you. And I think the thing is, if you don't know God, you don't know the kind of love that he has for you. It's hard to imagine that there is actually a God who cares for you that much and says, here is what's best. All these things that you're looking at in your life that you don't want to change, like, they're nothing compared to Jesus. Like, the joy and satisfaction that comes from being with Jesus, that comes from knowing him, that comes from following him and obeying the things that he tells you to do, that far outweighs every pleasure in this life. I would love to continue this conversation. What are the rules that you think hold people back the most from becoming a Christian? What are the rules that people are like, I could never do that? To my non-Christians, thank you for following me along while I walk under the premise of there is a God and he loves us. That is the belief that I hold, and that is the logic that created this conversation. I hope that this was helpful, in the least, just to understand what Christians believe and how we approach rules and rule following. Leave me a comment if you'd like to talk, or follow me on Instagram. So please stay tuned for the next video I have coming out about objections to Christianity. And if you'd like, feel free to leave a comment below on what other objections to Christianity you've heard that you'd like me to talk about. And I'd love to talk about those. Make sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And while you're at it, you can subscribe and watch this video or this playlist.